So yes, like Owen said, I'm Lauren McGuire. I lead the enterprise organization for EMEA at LivePerson. For those that don't know LivePerson, we are a conversational AI platform, which essentially means we are very fancy chatbots and messaging platform for WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat, etc. So if you've used HSBC or Vodafone support via chat, it's probably us. Yeah, so as Owen said, I have scaled organizations at Box. I started my career at Salesforce and then pre-IPO, post-IPO. So I know a little bit about what I'm calling the magic formula. And, let you in on a little secret. It may not be as magical as we all think, but it is really important for us as sales leaders and individual contributors for that matter to be thinking about our metrics. So my hope for today is that we all start thinking about metrics like Alan from The Hangover, and it just becomes automatic in functioning through our brains. It's so easy as sales leaders, especially when we walk into the room for the first time, to just jump straight into the deals, start hiring, start coaching, start enabling, probably running deals on our own. That's all the stuff that we were hired to do. It's the stuff we're really, really good at. And it's oftentimes really hard to pause and kind of pull yourself out of that and start to think about the metrics. But it's so important that we think about that because it's really what's going to ensure that our team is successful, that they're ultimately, running really, really efficiently. And so, yeah, my goal is for us to be thinking like Alan. I don't encourage you to count cards. I think that's illegal. So we won't be going to that, but definitely thinking about numbers in our heads really, really fast. So with that, what are some of the key metrics that we as sales leaders, and like I said, as ICs, really need to be thinking about on a regular basis? One is pipeline. How much pipeline do we need in order to be successful? How much pipeline as an account executive do I need in order to hit my target? Do we know that number? Do we know where that pipeline is going to come from? Do we know how efficient we are, right? What is our win rate? What's our team average win rate? And how successful is the team ultimately being? Sales cycle age, how long does it take us to actually close these deals? Are we really, really efficient, really, really quick? Are we managing super strategic enterprise deals that take 9, 12 months plus? Obviously, these are all questions and kind of comments that are going to be customized and relevant for each organization and each individual. The last one, last but not least, is also headcount capacity. So how many deals realistically can your reps manage, or how many deals can you individually manage before it just becomes overwhelming and too much where you're no longer operating efficiently? So these are the things that we really need to be thinking about that plug into that, ultimately into that magic formula. And I will jump straight in. And like I said in the beginning, it may not be as magical as I originally claimed. And it's likely a formula you already 100% know. But we'll get into kind of the nitty gritty and kind of why it ultimately is so, so important. Pipeline times win rate equals target. That is the magic formula, right? And I'm sure lots of you are thinking, Lauren, I already know this. Like, of course, this is the de facto formula for sales. But we'll peel back the layers a little bit and kind of uncover why I think it is still so magical. So as a sales leader, we walk into the room. Targets typically are already set for us, right? There's a CEO or a board that has already agreed on the revenue target. There may even be VCs that have agreed. So we likely are not customizing that too much. That's already been built for us. Win rate, we probably know our team's win rate, or maybe we have enough data to generally understand how efficient and how successful our team is. If you're still in your early days, I think, we can probably use a 20% win rate or something a little bit conservative. If you're still trying to figure that out, that's okay. And then pipeline. How much pipeline do I actually need in order to hit my targets? And so if we use that 20%, we need 5x our pipeline in order to hit our target. And I think, like I said, it is so easy to focus on the day to day. And, if the team is really, really high performing, is there an opportunity to pull different levers? If the team isn't performing, is there an opportunity to pull different levers? And that's why it's so important to understand your magic formula to actually figure out which levers you can ultimately pull. So questions to kind of start asking yourself in terms of those levers: which channels will my pipeline come from? So, the obvious ones are marketing, and that could be a combination of, inbound SEO, SEM marketing, or, outbound demand gen marketing. If you are lucky enough to have an SDR organization, it could be, those traditional cold source SDR opportunities. It could be that you are putting a lot of pressure on your AEs, right? And that you expect them to kind of double play to both close deals and source their own ops. And then even maybe a channel or a partner organization. The reality is it's probably going to be some type of combination amongst the four, or maybe even another channel. And it's up to us as sales leaders and, working with our cross-functional peers to understand what the percentage breakdown we expect from each channel. And that's really important on the second point, because how are we actually going to measure this and keep each kind of cross-functional leader accountable for their target? Because it is so important that each one is accountable. If we go back to the magic formula, if we don't have enough pipeline and our win rate's still pretty strong, we're not going to hit our target, right? And so there are so many different channels that feed into that. And there's so many kind of people we need to work with to ensure that the pipeline is met so that we can ultimately, like I said, achieve our targets. And I'll pause here because I think this one's an interesting one, because you can measure it kind of almost one of two ways. One way is that you keep each channel in its pure swim lane. So let's just say your pipeline target is 1 million. Well, and marketing source is 30%. So they're responsible for 300K. SDR, maybe another 30%, 300K. So every conversation, you want to understand, okay, is marketing hitting the 300K? Yes or no? Is SDR hitting the 300K? Yes or no? But in reality, those teams work together. And I'll give an example. So at LivePerson, we just hosted an amazing exec event a couple of weeks ago, actually at the Soho House in the Strand, which if you haven't been to that venue, it is very cool. They have a whole conference center in there. But marketing drove the event, right? They put on the event, they got the right people, the agenda, etc. And oops, I lost my slides there. But they will come back. Anyways, so when marketing is responsible for that, but we had our SDR organization driving registration, which is exactly what they should be doing. That being said, driving reg does pull them off of doing their traditional outbound and cold sourcing. So we saw the marketing attribution skyrocket, right? The pipeline values went way up. The number of opportunities went way up because we were driving the right people and the right contacts to register for the event. But the SDR opportunities suffered a little bit. That's okay, because at the end of the day, the whole pipeline target was still met. And so it's a really good, interesting way to think about how you measure it, is that all four channels kind of co-own that target. So you can kind of push and pull SDRs to support some of the marketing functions, AEs to do the same, working with the partner in the channel. So definitely a couple different ways to think about the way you want to measure that. The second piece on that is keeping everybody accountable. And so when I was at Trip Actions, we would have a weekly meeting with our CEO, and everybody, we had a huge dashboard that declared, the contribution by source and how we were doing against each target. And while it wasn't there to praise or shame anyone, it was actually to bring all the cross-functional leaders in to see if there was a gap and how any of the other leaders could maybe push to overachieve or, make up that gap. And it was a really great opportunity to, like I said, hold the groups and the leaders accountable, but also have a really productive conversation of how we ensure that the overall target was met. And so really, really great to keep those types of opportunities and those conversations flowing so that you can ensure that the pipeline targets are complete and ultimately met. Thirdly, how far out do you need that pipeline? That's where the sales cycle age comes into play. So it's so easy to create your model and be like, created in month and closed in month. Boom, model done for a whole year. It looks beautiful. But the reality is your deals probably take a month, 3 months, 6 months. And you need the model to reflect that. And so, for example, if your deals take 6 months and we're sitting in July, we need to be thinking about next year's pipeline right now, which is kind of mind blowing because I think a lot of people are thinking about Q3 and Q4 and how we close out the year. But if you're thinking about pipeline, you actually need to be thinking about next year to ensure that you've got enough coverage to hit next year's target. So really important that you build out the model to reflect the reality of your sales cycles. Number 4, easy one. What's your average deal size? And that obviously goes into play into the 5th question of how many ops can a rep realistically manage? Is it 3 because they're super, super strategic? Is it 15? Is it 30? Only you will know how many ops until you start to see kind of maybe the win rate or the sales cycle age start to deflect. But that number is really important because that tells you how many heads you ultimately need in order to be successful. So if you think, your reps can handle 15 opportunities a month, then great. You're getting 45. Okay, I need 3 heads. And, if you want to grow and you can see the opportunity count ultimately increasing, great. Now I have justification to ask for more head count. And so, I think these are the 5 main questions that'll help tie into your magic formula. My hope for today is that you are walking out thinking about metrics as quickly in your head as possible, and just kind of take a pause and pull yourself out of the day-to-day every once in a while to think about your magic formula.